We just have a few quick announcements. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm actually going to pass it to Alexa to talk about the blogs.
Hi, we just wanted to point out that we had a really great career series that was posted on our blogs in January. The majority of them written by Dr. Jenna Yentes, talking about the next steps to take in your career, how to figure out what you want. And there's some really great Q&A questions that she did with some colleagues about how to negotiate for some jobs. So please absolutely check those out as it is job searching season. Additionally, if we're looking for people to write some new blogs or some new ideas for some blogs, so maybe you have some ideas but you're not interested in writing, please shoot me an email if there's something that you would like to see or resources that you would like to see that would be helpful. You can either drop them in the chat or you can send me an email if you don't want people to know. I also have a Google form if you're interested in writing a blog. We also would be happy to have some more contributors to our blog. It's kind of a nice break from scientific writing to be able to write a little bit more leisurely, I would say. I'm going to put a link to a Google form in the chat. So if you are interested in writing a blog, or even if you have some ideas, you can put it in the Google form and just put in the comments that you don't want to write it, but this is what you'd be happy to see. And I can try to seek out some people who might be able to write on some of those topics. So both things, or you can email me if that is easier. My email is up there. And that's all I got. We post them about once or I would say every other week is kind of what we shoot for, minus our really awesome career series that we had in January. We post it every week. So happy to hopefully get some feedback and some new people interested in writing some blogs.
Thank you so much, Alexa. That was great. And thank you for running that. I think there's some really good content on there. So check it out. One last announcement for this month is just, I think we're getting a lot of attention and new members and everything. So please remember to fill out the membership form if you can. It's on our website, which is at the bottom. You can sign up as a woman or underrepresented gender in biomechanics or an ally. We'll keep you up to date on IWB events, news, resources, everything like that. So thank you so much for joining this meeting. We are so excited to welcome the National Biomechanics Day team, and I will pass it off to them.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today as we discuss National Biomechanics Day, the worldwide celebration of biomechanics. Today, we will introduce NBD with a biomechanics parable, and of course, normal informative information too. We are two dope NBD queens and Denise King. Let's start the parable. Let's start the parable. Okay, wait. It's not starting. Nothing's moving, right?
We're not seeing it.
You see my first slide.
We see the first slide. We see your cursor. Here we go.
Okay, let's start the parable. The universe began with the Big Bang, and that led to stars, and that led to planets, and that led to people, and that led to biomechanics. In fact, with such a strong connection to the Big Bang, I think we should call it Big Bang Biomechanics. It's got a nice sound to it, and it's got a nice implication too. But you know, most people like biomechanics. And yet, with a strong connection to the whole universe, it's surprising that biomechanics, or Big Bang biomechanics, is such a mystery to so many people. Why is it so unknown to the general population? Why is it more unknown than other sciences? That is because we have placed biomechanics inside a bubble. We work in an isolated, insulated, encapsulated bubble. From inside the bubble, biomechanics appears so large and vibrant and important. We might even call it the big biomechanics bubble, but that would be a mistake. In fact, the more accurate name is the big biomechanics bubble, bumble, or in modern parlance, the big bumble. In fact, our bubble is kind of small. It is dwarfed by other sciences like biology, like physics. And in fact, to some degree, it is ignored through or by science itself. And I have presented information in other presentations supporting this idea. So why have we allowed this to happen? I wrote about this in our first National Biomechanics Day article, Why National Biomechanics Day? And I wrote that biomechanics is poorly positioned within the broad world of education. Biomechanics is largely shuttered within postgraduate programs that remain secluded, underexposed, and unknown to most people. Biomechanics appears healthy and vibrant to us because we are within biomechanics. We work and live within the bubble, but it remains fundamentally a mystery to those outside biomechanics, outside the field. This is very unfortunate for us, and it has limited our impact. In fact, when I was writing this paragraph and working on it in PowerPoint, PowerPoint said to me, biomechanics, what's that? So all parables have morals, and the moral of our biomechanics parable is, if you want to change the world, don't forget the young people. Biomechanics needs young people to change the world, and with them to break through the bubble, to become, as I say, the breakthrough science of the 21st century. Only by including a younger crowd can we hope to expand and grow biomechanics to have its full impact on society in the future. With all this in mind, we created National Biomechanics Day in 2015 with our first event in 2016. We being people like Janet Dufek, Jill McNitt, and myself and others. And we have since created the Biomechanics Initiative, which is our nonprofit parent organization. The initiative is directed by a number of people, including Lisa and Nataliya, who today, of course. What is the purpose of National Biomechanics Day? It is to introduce biomechanics to high school students and teachers to develop a technique, a method to break out of the bubble that we are encapsulated in. We have been doing National Biomechanics Day for 6 years. We have reached over 32,000 high school students around the world. We have been in 31 or more countries. Here are photos from NBD events around the world. Here are two of my favorite NBD photos. They show the true spirit of National Biomechanics Day, the fun and enjoyment of running an NBD event with young people in the lab. Here's NBD in Taiwan last year. Do you like National Biomechanics Day, we asked them? I think they do. We work closely with the Taiwanese Society, and we are growing biomechanics in Taiwan. We have a lot of expressions in NBD, probably too many, but two of our most famous are science meets fun on National Biomechanics Day, because it truly does. Kids like doing biomechanics because, as Jill McNitt has said, it's the science of themselves. They are the experiment, so it is so enjoyable for them. Another expression I have is that there are more smiles on more faces in more biomechanics labs on NBD than any other day. Our other expression, I kind of said it already, we are celebrating the 21st century breakthrough science. I truly believe that with the growth of biomechanics, we can impact society so much more, and we will in the next 10, 30, and 50 years, during actually the working careers of most of you, I would say. We have broken through within the bubble of biomechanics. I think NBD is part of the biomechanics firmament now. We have now reached 7 articles about National Biomechanics Day in the Journal of Biomechanics. These are done by about 27 different authors. We have many articles in Lower Extremity Review, which is more of a lay magazine for the general population, which is of course really good for us. Here I highlight this article from last year because we're on the cover. It's like being on the cover of the Rolling Stone. We have many great sponsors, including, I point out today, Nobel, because we are working with them closely again this year. And all of these sponsors are so fantastic, and they support us, but they also support so much of biomechanics. Why National Biomechanics Day? because NBD provides a platform upon which we unite into one synchronized worldwide celebration of biomechanics, the perfect STEM field containing science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And this is the true secret of NBD, is that we all do it together. It is so much fun and enjoyable, and we have that camaraderie among all of us, knowing that we are doing this together around the world. NBD advances biomechanics by stepping backwards into high schools to introduce our science to high school students. Thank you very much for listening to this panel.
Okay, so I will take over and share a little bit of information, a lot of bit of information about hosting your own National Biomechanics Day. So I'm hoping that after Paul's presentation, you feel galvanized about how exciting National Biomechanics Day is. And maybe even if it's your first time thinking about hosting a National Biomechanics Day celebration of your own, or if you're a tried and true NBD veteran, you can come away with some information about how to host a successful NBD event. The first thing I want to start out with is to assemble your team. This is one of the most important things that I can discuss. You can't do it alone, and it's much more fun to do it with a group of people. So thinking about who is going to be in your corner when you're talking about how exciting Biomechanics Day is with the high school students. If you're listening to this and you are a graduate student, oftentimes you will need some kind of faculty support if you would like to use university resources. So if you want to book lab space or access to classrooms after hours, you need to be affiliated with the university. So reach out to your advisors or other people in your community to build up that network. And it can be helpful to assign roles. So thinking about someone to perhaps manage registration if you're having an event that requires registration ahead of time, someone to think about advertising, promoting your event. Maybe if you're thinking about looking at funding, so if you'd like to have some kind of activities that require resources, someone to be the touch point for securing funding can be helpful, as well as day of volunteers, people moving around the labs, talking about motion capture, sharing their research, all can be very, very helpful. So on the right, I just want to acknowledge all the people that have helped me at CMU with planning our National Biomechanics Day. But before you get started in planning your event, there are very important things to keep in mind. The first thing I want to discuss is child protection laws. So I'm from Pennsylvania, and we have the strictest child protection laws maybe in all of the United States. Any adult that interacts with a child under the age of 18 has to have a fingerprint and an FBI security clearance, which is shocking but true. But these laws are different around the world. So I encourage you, when thinking about planning your event, to consider the child protection laws in place in your corner of the world ahead of time, so that you can plan for the number of chaperones or the total head count of students that you'll be able to handle. As I mentioned before, having some kind of affiliation with a school. So thinking about whether you want to have your event be open for any high school student to attend, or whether you want to partner directly with the school. If so, a field trip should be worked out in advance, either by collaborating directly with a teacher, if you have an established relationship, or sometimes a university will have an outreach office. So someone that already has a working relationship with a local high school that might be able to connect you. Something to think about is that it can be easier to plan a field trip with a private school than a public school, but tread carefully here, because a lot of times these private schools do have access to more resources than the public schools. And so perhaps you might get a little bit more bang for your buck in helping expose some underserved communities to biomechanics with accessing a public school instead. Another thing to think about is whether you want to have your event on a weekday or a weekend. But again, thinking about whether students have someone to pick them up or drop them off on the weekends. That's why there's a little asterisk to think about there. And finally, the format of your event. So obviously an IRL and in-person option would be great, but we're also very familiar after the past 2 years of how to hold really great virtual events. Alternatively, I think Paul last year had a hybrid National Biomechanics Day celebration, and that went great. You had, I think, students in person, and then also someone walking around with an iPad recording and showing everything that was going on. So something like that could be an option if the students have reliable access to internet as well. The fun bit, planning the actual event. So we have a couple resources that we'd like to share with you. These are all on the Biomechanics Initiative National Biomechanics Day website. I encourage you to go to this site, learn more. We have the virtual content collection, where we have educational materials that have been compiled by previous groups that have put on their own National Biomechanics Days. These are great for getting inspiration for holding your event. We also have a NBD Guidelines and Procedures document, which can be helpful in reading more about the philosophy of NBD, learning more about some of the topics that Paul was talking about earlier in the presentation. And also we have a collection of photos, billions and billions of smiling faces. And I hope that we will see your smiling faces in the 2022 section on the website in the coming years as well. So please, if you do have an NBD, take photos, share it to social media. We will retweet it. We love it. Here is an example of a sample NBD that you could hold. So this is kind of the simplest minimal planning option using resources that you probably already have available to you in your biomechanics lab. So this could be a 1-hour lab tour held in person on a weekday. You could start out with an introduction. So asking the students, what does a biomechanist study? What kind of things does a biomechanist need to know? Math, biology, physics, getting them excited, getting them to whet their appetites a little bit. You could then show them some optical motion capture. So this is always a hit. If they've never seen an optical motion capture before, you could reference, I know maybe Avatar is like too old of a movie now. I don't even know if high school students have seen Avatar, or if they know what it is, but that's a really common example that's shared. You have someone wearing all of the marker sets. And then this is a hands-on activity that I learned from Kat Steele at the University of Washington. Anytime they have students coming into the lab to learn about optical motion capture, they make them do the wave. So they give every single student a reflective marker, and then they have a live stream of one of the cameras going on like a big projector, and they have all the kids do the wave, and it's a blast. It's so much fun. But you could show a little bit of optical motion capture and then talk more about the other tools we use. So maybe doing a hands-on demo with EMG, talking about some physiology, bring in some more science in that way. And all of this can be accomplished in about an hour with a small group of volunteers, and could be a great way to introduce National Biomechanics Day to your communities. But I encourage you to think outside of the box. So we do have that virtual content collection. We do have a lot of educational materials out there, and you can get really creative with what you do. This is an example of our first National Biomechanics Day at CMU. We had a fully virtual event, and we went big. So we had 9 virtual sessions, 3 of which were hands-on activities. We had an interview, and we had 5 lecture style sessions. So we had sessions like the dynamics of drumming, where we had Owen actually teaching Newton's 3 laws with drumsticks. So we mailed out drumsticks to all of the students that registered for our event. We also, because this is CMU, we had to have a little bit of machine learning in there. So we had a markerless motion capture session with a little bit of hands-on activity. We had the students getting up, moving, doing jumping jacks. And it was a full day event. We had 18 volunteers to pull this off. We had 46 students sign up. We mailed out about 30 kits. So this is big. We went big. You don't have to go big, but this is an example of something that could be accomplished with a team of dedicated volunteers. And we do have our website at the bottom where you can see video recordings of our event, as well as some of the educational materials that we generated. But we learned a lot from putting on this event. Virtual events are tough. There is definitely Zoom burnout. So we were planning this event as kind of an a la carte situation. We were thinking, someone can come in, they can watch whatever videos they want to watch, they can tune in when they want to, they can tune out when they want to. But if you plan something really cool, your students will want to stay for all of it, and they'll get kind of tired at the end. Another thing to keep in mind is that nobody will troubleshoot access to your virtual event until about 5 minutes before you start. So keep in mind that as you're trying to do your introductions, you will probably also be fielding emails from concerned parents who can't log on to the website. But the 2 things that enabled us to pull this off, which I'm both very grateful for, are my great team of collaborators and volunteers, as well as funding from the Biomechanics Initiative. So that's what enabled us to ship out all of these kits to all of these students. And so Lisa will tell you a little bit more about how to secure some funding for your own event.
I will if I can find the unmute button, which I think I just did. Alrighty. So that is a perfect introduction. Thank you. I am going to share my screen here. Let's go with Can everybody see it? Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Nataliya, for that. I am very excited to learn about the wave. We've done Biomechanics Day with even younger students as young as kindergarten, and we do fireflies with motion capture where everybody has one and they fly all around and everybody watches them, and then we hide them and we pull them back. And so it's a lot of fun and a good way to engage the younger kids. But we're going to start doing some dancing, I think, in the wave. Alrighty. So I'm going to talk about how do you get funding for these things. Obviously, these take not just a lot of time from us, and a lot of us are willing to volunteer our time because we're sharing our passions and able to start getting the next generation of biomechanists engaged in something that I know personally I love. But how do you get funding to create kits? And I know Nataliya had mentioned that she had funding. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about just what we've been doing with Biomechanics Day. So as Paul keeps saying, together we're going to make biomechanics the breakthrough science of the 21st century. Since 2016, this has included 434 events across 31 nations. Paul's shown you some examples of different nations that have been participating last year for the first time through some of the funding that we were able to provide. Nigeria had its first Biomechanics Day. We've managed to reach 32,000 or more students, and these events are typically at least 50% female and 50% people of color. And it's really important that we are not only reaching students, but we're also reaching students in minorities. I think as women, and a lot of us really understand that there are challenges to having accessibility, to having the ability to say, hey, that's something I can do, to having representation. And I think that's true for all of the different minority groups. So it's really important that we're able to not just reach people, but we're also reaching people that are helping to increase diversity within our field. There's been at least 11,000 teachers that have participated in National Biomechanics Day. I'm going to skip over that one with funding for a second. We've had 17 biomechanics societies and 37 biomechanics companies partner with us through sponsorships and different award programs, different competitions. And it's just been tremendous to see how much this has grown over the last 5 years. One of the really cool things is that since we started the Biomechanics Initiative, we've had a lot of support from our generous sponsors, and we've been able to launch a number of funding programs, and we've given away over $10,000 in funding. Last year we had 4 different programs with our goal of supporting underrepresented people in national biomechanics events globally. And this year we have new ones. So what I wanted to talk about next is the different programs that we have offered this year. So this year we have 4 programs that are going to be due in about 12 days. So if you haven't already heard, which hopefully you have because you're following us on Twitter and the different societies are sharing these, please consider applying for these grants. These were really, really great last year. We were able to fund a number of different grants. The one that you're seeing here is funded in partnership with the Black Biomechanists. And this one is one of the grants that funded the opportunities in Nigeria last year. We also have a partnership with this group, and this is to fund women in biomechanics outreach programs. And Nataliya's program that she showed you guys was one of those ones that was funded last year. We had other individuals funded from this group as well. We have the Latinx in biomechanics grant, which is focused on helping reach people of Latin background. And then we have a disability in biomechanics outreach where we're working on showcasing biomechanics work for disability sciences. I've just gone through a lot of this, but ultimately you can find all of this on our website. Across the board, we have, I think everybody here would qualify potentially to submit in one of these. So for the Black Biomechanics, we're looking for Black students who are enrolled in a master's or PhD program as applicants. For the women's, we're looking for female or non-binary students. For the Latinx, we're looking for Latin students. And then for disability biomechanics, we're looking for people who are doing disability research. And we're really looking to have those people come and apply for grants that are going to support people in those minority groups as well. So with the grant requirements, we're looking for people who are going to do an NBD event, submit a final report, partnership between, sorry, I keep hearing the recording. This is a partnership between Novell and National Biomechanics Day. They are accepting one-page abstracts on how you would implement the loadsolpro to assess populations outside of a typical lab or clinic. And the winner's going to receive 3 pairs of loadsolpros. I actually have loadsols in our lab, and they are really great, especially for Biomechanics Day. They're a great tool because they're movable. You can put them quickly into a student's shoe. So I really recommend that you go and apply for this. It's a great tool, not only for your lab, but also to showcase biomechanics. Oh, and these are open until March 8th. So really what we're trying to do is to make biomechanics more accessible. And we know that it takes time and money to open your labs, to be able to share your passions with others. And we want to make sure that we are empowering people to do that. We want to make sure that there are resources to do that, and to make sure that you have the ability. So please do apply for these grants and take advantage of these opportunities, because as you can see, I don't know, I'm all nerdy, but I love this stuff. And I just think that it's so great that we're able to share the work that we do with people. I've had people who've come through our biomechanics days and they've said, oh my gosh, I'm a football player and I had no idea that I could go and do this as my job. And they've actually made a decision to go into college and do this. We've had biomechanics days where we have people who are working with sports teams and applied for programs that they didn't expect because they were able to get exposed to this. So we've actually managed to change some lives, and that's pretty impressive. It's pretty rewarding. So just wanted to wrap up with a thank you for all of you. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and share this with you, and are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Paul, Natalia, and Lisa. I think we lost Amanda, but I can help moderate the discussion. It sounds like some people are asking questions in the chat, so feel free to unmute and ask your question now, or post your question in the chat. All right, I think Amanda's back to you. Feel free to also share. Feel free to also share if anyone has a really good idea that they have done during their own National Biomechanics Day. This is kind of an opportunity to share ideas and get feedback, anything like this.
I have something about the, oh, is there a question?
No, go ahead, Paul.
I have something about the money. Our events are actually fairly low cost. And I'm not sure why. I think I just always try, if not try, I just seem to find the cheap way to do things. Here's my idea of NBD. Invite some high school kids over and show them your lab. So ultimately, this is what we do. And so if the event does include a lot of equipment and supplies, well, that could be some money. But on the other hand, NBDs can be pretty inexpensive also, I think. And we do. We invite them over, we show them isokinetic dynamometry and EMG, and motion capture is always really big. And then we say, was that great? They all say yes. And then we say bye. And so it doesn't cost that much money in this regard.
I have a question. So I've seen so many like amazing events, and something our group has, when I was in graduate school, it seemed like probably the biggest issue we had was actually kind of like finding high school students and bringing them in, like that kind of recruitment step. Like we planned cool events, but it was difficult to like figure out how to actually like, you know, engage high school students. And so I was wondering, kind of from different groups who have had these big events, how you kind of did this outreach, like to actually get in touch with your kind of students in the first place and draw them into the lab or get them to like sign up and participate in these virtual events and things like that.
You want to go first?
Yes, I do have a perspective on this, but I'd also love to hear from some of the other IWB members on things that you've tried that have worked. We were very blessed at CMU to have a outreach office that helps coordinate interactions between faculty or students and then local high schools in the Pittsburgh public school system. So we were able to just reach out to them directly. We also targeted, because we had a registration type event, we targeted a lot of mailing lists. So we have Girls in Steel, we have GEM, we have like female robotics teams, which were really great. We just like threw out flyers to all of the mailing lists we could find and did a lot of advertising on Twitter, a lot of word of mouth. Not ideal, but kind of a piecework, patchwork approach seemed to work pretty well for us. We had about 70 students respond to an initial interest survey. Not all of them were able to make it, not all of them were able to register, but something like that seemed to do the job.
I can share a little bit.
Share.
Sorry, I can
No,
share a
you
little
go.
bit about what we've done. I'm at Vanderbilt in Nashville, and we found if you're looking for just reaching the most number of students, really coordinating through the teachers has worked the best for us. And we've just like gradually built up a like spreadsheet that just exists, and we add to it when we have like personal connections or we've like connected with the metro schools in our area. And we found whether it's virtual or bringing people to our lab, really like, yeah, coordinating with the teachers where you're going to get exposure to maybe students who had no idea our field existed. And you're also going to get many more students because you'll probably get a whole class at a time. Whereas we've also done a couple events that are like sign up based. And I agree, ours, again, advertising for that, like exactly what Nataliya said, we like did it several different ways. And we found with that, we definitely got like lower numbers because like students were taking the initiative to like attend something outside of class and like sign themselves up. And then we also found a big difference in the type of student we reached. Definitely with a like sign up approach, we realized we were getting students who had already some initial interest in the field, and it was cool to spend more time with them, and we were able to kind of like dive deeper. But we generally got students who like were already interested in science and math. So yeah, that's been our experience.
True. Yeah,
And
there is
I
a good degree of self-selection bias.
Yeah, we saw that too. I just wonder, kind of, did you all do anything kind of specifically to connect with teachers in the Nashville area? Or
I'm
kind of
trying to
like
think.
cold call, email them?
Yeah,
Like, I feel like
we-
we did that approach and it didn't work super well. So I love this idea of kind of getting the teachers to buy in, but.
Yeah, I think we just like went with the more people we reach, or like the more teachers we make aware about this, the better. And I think I'm like trying to remember back for our in-person events, but I know for our virtual events, we we basically like created these videos, and then we had the teachers like let us know when a good time for us to do like a virtual visit to their classroom is. And like, it seemed like once we tried to reach out to like school administrators, and then like, we tried to utilize any like connections Vanderbilt as a university had to schools in the area. And it seemed, we have like a huge spreadsheet now, and the spreadsheet might actually outdate me being here. So I'm trying to think like how we kind of first started getting all of those names together. And I'm not totally sure, but we've gone with the like advertise to as many people as possible and try to directly reach out to like either STEM teachers or science teachers and things like that. They seem the ones most excited to expose their students to stuff like this.
Yeah, I'll share too. So we've done a lot of networking. As a parent, I know a lot of teachers, but also, you know, I've called up people and I said, hey, do you have any teacher friends? Especially in the high school curriculums. And that's been really helpful just because then you have a personal connection. They have a vested interest in saying, okay, I'll have a conversation. The other thing is that we're in sports. And so one of the things that we found really successful, if any of you are doing sports research and have relationships with different teams, is we'll do open houses and we'll have targeted opportunities for high school athletes through their coaches and awareness on that. And that way they'll come in for, yes, it'll be some science, but we also pair it with maybe some other opportunities in pitching or something like that. You tend to get a lot of those athletes who then say, okay, I'm interested in this, and they're more likely to come because it's in something that they're interested in. So if anybody is doing sports related research, that's also a good way to go through coaches and to find ways to come and introduce the science to the teams that way.
Our success in recruiting, we had originally planned on our first NBD to work through this university office that does set up events with local high schools at the university. So I thought that was perfect. And about 3 weeks before our first event, this person had done nothing and we had gotten nowhere. So in desperation, I started calling high schools, and we have 6 schools in our district and in our county. And I just called them in the main office and asked for the science office. And I eventually got connected with the science teachers at the various schools. And in 5 of these schools, they're very receptive. They're excited about having us work with them. It provides a new thrill, I think, for their students. So we have a great relationship now with these schools. And each year I just call them up and say, hey, we're getting ready for this date. And they're very enthusiastic. And on their end, they organize who's coming, and they even provide the transportation. So we've been maybe a little lucky with that, but the high schools themselves are doing this. All of them.
Thank you all. We have one question. Oh, we have one question, and then
sorry.
No,
go ahead.
You can go, and then I'll take Maria's question.
Oh, thank you. So I'm a graduate student, and I enjoyed the presentation. It's so good, and also I love the website, and also Paul, you put the slides. I think it's awesome, and definitely I download it. I think it's great resources. I really love it. So I have a question about how about the parents? Have you specific mentioned, are you going to recruit some parents to be here? And also, is there has a specific format for the proposal? I know there have some requirement what we're supposed to have, but how about the details, some format things for the proposal? Yep, thank you.
You want to talk about the proposals, Lisa?
Sure. So Paul, maybe you can fill in some of the details as well, but I think that for the proposals, the specifics are called out in the grant request. And I think if you follow just kind of filling in the details there on what we're looking for, I can bring it up and show you an example of one of them. So I'll go and do that. But I think that we have kind of detailed out what the different sections are that we're looking for and the key pieces of information. Are you also looking for how long we're looking for all of that to be? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, kind of, and also is it the font and size, something like that? Because I have no idea. This is the first year I participated in this event, and I'm happy to join.
Can I say something? Okay, so there's no direct instruction about the font. The proposals are short, they're 4 pages. They're fairly well directed. There are 8 or so items that we ask you to address. And the main evaluation is really, is this a nice, fun, interesting NBD event, and can they do it? So those are the main things. And so we ask you, please describe your NBD event, what you plan to do, and then we ask you some of the details. And we just try to make sure that it would be a successful event, that you can do it. And last year in the women's and Black programs, we had a total of 31 submissions, and we cannot at this time fund all of these. And so there were many, many good ones. And we were able to select those that seemed to rise to the top, but there are many good submissions. I would just go for it. I have a comment you asked about parents. We haven't concentrated that much on parents, but we have done a little work with teachers. So the NBD, our count is 32,000 students and over 1,000 teachers and parents, and mostly that's teachers. So oftentimes at our events, for example, 3 or 4 teachers will come with the 30 or so students. And in other events, there are teachers there also. So I think it would be great. Actually, I do say sometimes we're trying to reach students, teachers, and their parents. And if we get all 3 groups, involved and appreciating NBD, we would have a bigger effect. That's a great idea. Invite some parents.
I think
We've had parents participate a couple of times, and they usually really enjoy it and have really positive feedback on our events.
Yeah, I also just said this in the chat, but I think we tapped into homeschool parents. They're always looking for activities to do with their kids, and they tend to be connected on some sort of Facebook group or other social media. And we just had a personal connection. One of the grad students in a lab in our department, actually his wife homeschooled their kids, and so she advertised there, and we got a bunch of parents with homeschooled kids from all different ages came to one of our events as well.
Yeah. I know that for NBD, the typical target population we're looking for is high school kids, but we've had a number of events that have targeted younger kids, and that's where we tend to get more parental engagement. And that's been really positive. We've done events where they've actually led to science fair projects and things like that, where the parents and the kids were both mutually inspired. And my son will never let me live it down because he got second place to the kid who did a biomechanics science fair project after he came and saw us. So I hear about that every single year at science fair, and he just lost to that kid again this week.
I have a question. So you kind of talked about this a little bit. I wonder how you've approached evaluating your programs, not only with the students, but also internally amongst yourselves. Like, how have you decided that you want to keep doing something, or try something different next year? I know you kind of mentioned some anecdotal feedback from the participants, but curious how you approached evaluating your programs.
Love that quantitative question. We sent out surveys at the end of our event, and we asked students to provide some very simple graded feedback, like what was your favorite session? What was your least favorite session? Do you have any comments for us? And just very open-ended. We kept it short because short attention spans, but we got some really great feedback. We learned that, based on our suspicions, the event was really long, so we're shortening it this year. But overall, it was a great hit. We actually took in some demographic information on registration. So we knew who we were targeting and what kind of exposure the students had to biomechanics before. And we were happy to find out that most of them had never heard of biomechanics before. So that was really exciting. So that, coupled with generally positive feedback, is very encouraging. And we decided to continue doing it in the next year and probably for the next foreseeable future.
A number of NBD events have, within the event or partnered with other NBDs, done things like Nataliya is saying, created surveys, giving them, the students and the teachers, pre and post surveys. And those articles I pointed out in Journal of Biomechanics, 2 or 3 of them are about the survey results, showing increase in appreciation, understanding of biomechanics, things like that. I myself, I'm not very good at doing things like that. And so at our NBD events, we just count the smiles. And we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 100% smiling. Let's keep going. So that's kind of our program.
I think we've taken some steps to try to get feedback from students and teachers on what works best for them, but also we've taken some time to figure out how to most efficiently use our time. I think we're all like crazy busy and would rather spend most of our time like interacting directly with students than like maybe like formatting slides to make the perfect content. And so we also have like been pretty intentional about thinking about, can we like put maybe some time in up front to develop some content or some like stations and activities and then document it well, so that like we can spend the majority of our time moving forward just like straight actually interacting with students. Because I think, yeah, that's the most fun part. And we all definitely have limited time with a lot of other things on our plate. So we've like thought about the several different approaches we've taken and also thought about them through that frame of mind.
Rachel's group, they have been doing NBD since the beginning just about, and they're so experienced, and they run this great NBD event that's so much fun for their visitors. So Rachel, you must just simply be able to build upon your previous years and what has been successful. So as you do it, each year goes by, it's a little more organized and it takes a little less work, something like that.
I agree. It definitely takes less work. Like I said, like we have a folder on like our lab drive, and it has like the big spreadsheet of everyone we contact. And every year we like ask everyone in the center to like, what other contacts in education do you have? But then we like can start from last year's flyer advertising, and we can start from last year's like different stations in our lab that describe different things we do. And it definitely gets, less work and easier, but then still as rewarding and fun for the students during the interactions each year you do it.
I have a question. I was wondering if anyone has included undergraduates in their events, or if it's been like the graduate students hosting the event. I know we're starting to involve a lot more undergrads in our biomechanics chapter at my school. And so we really want to include them in the event, even if they're not already in a grad lab, but still target the event towards high school students. So I was just wondering if anyone had advice on the best way to go about that and also get them excited about NBD.
We've had many undergraduates in our lab as part of our training program for them, and whoever is in the lab in the spring semester, they've all participated with the event. They love it. They like it very much. They've enjoyed it. So it's a combination of faculty, grad students, and undergrads in our NBD events.
We also had undergraduates helping out with our event. There's a biomechanics of human movement course that's taught at CMU every fall. So we sent out requests for volunteers to that class mailing list. And that's half and half undergrads and graduate students. That's where we got a lot of our day of volunteers.
I'd like to go in just one little direction right now, or change of direction just slightly. So NBD events can highlight so many different things, different areas of the Vanderbilt program. I know well, they do a lot of disability and exoskeletal types of work. And so they sort of highlight those things. An area that we haven't spoken about, and I see my friend and colleague here, Teal Darkenbald, is dance biomechanics. And a number of NBD events have highlighted or done dance as the basis of the event, and shown dance, motion capture, dance electromyography. And it's been, those are exciting events. So we're always kind of trying to promote dance science and dance biomechanics through National Biomechanics Day.
I think with anything, the most successful biomechanics days come where you bring your passion and you roll together, as Nataliya was saying earlier, a team of people who have the same level of passion and are able to share that. Going to a totally non-quantitative method of how successful our biomechanics days are. When we're doing outreach events and everybody who's doing it is excited and we're having fun, everybody's responding really well. To the point where even last year, our Biomechanics Day event was an hour-long Ask Me Anything Zoom call, in which we had people who were strength coaches, PTs, engineers, kinesiologists, exercise scientists, all on a call with about, I don't know, 20 or 30 high school kids, they all stayed on for the entire time asking us questions, and we were making jokes about who had Darth Vader in the background and, you know, linking it to the things that we saw on their videos. One kid had, you know, a whole Star Wars background, and so we talked a lot about the biomechanics of Star Wars. So I think it was really just where we've been as are the kids staying engaged the entire time, and I think that comes from, are we having fun? Are they having fun? And that's really where you're going to have a lot of success, and that can include undergraduates, that can include parents, that can include teachers, but that's where you're going to find a lot of success, and you'll find yourself wanting to go back and doing this outreach repeatedly, because it's a fun thing to do and to share what you do with other people.
I love that. We have one question in the chat. Does anyone have experience or ideas for simple projects or activities that expand beyond just a day event? And this is someone, Herman is looking at exploring doing some outreach with high schoolers over time rather than just one day.
One event we did is last year, actually, I received the Women in Biomechanics grant from NBD, and we did a series over the summer with women students, and we took the approach of like, we did 4 days, and one day we introduced biomechanics. Day 2 and day 3 were meant to be like really interactive, and we did a short, day 2 was all like sports biomechanics focused, and we did like an IMU accelerometer activity using a free app that you can get on your phone. And then day 3, we did all like rehab biomechanics focused and did like an engineering design activity. And then day 4, we did a career panel. So we kind of like broke up, we did stuff over several days and kind of focused on different areas of biomechanics. And then as well as, yeah, got to highlight some really awesome women in the field and did an intro as well. So that's one idea, is to focus on like different areas of the field.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll follow on to that. Oh,
That's what I had to say. Wow.
yeah, that's super cool. And I'll kind of add, so at UVA, we did we essentially did stations, so like a one-day event, but each station was kind of hosted by a different lab, because we had representation from like kinesiology and biomedical engineering and mechanical engineering, like different kind of groups within our biomechanics community. So I think something like that could be spaced out over, you know, days over time instead of kind of stations within one day. If you were at an institution that kind of had different groups that could participate, that could be cool.
We have submitted some grant applications to private foundations. And these applications are typically extended, if not courses, but exposures to biomechanics, in which high school kids would come in, for example, 5 Saturdays in a row, and we would teach them a series of things, and we would have some assignments for them and educational experiences for them. So we have attempted that, but we have not gotten those grants yet, so we haven't done that.
I'm just curious, can people raise their hands if they're planning to do an NBD event this year? Raise their hands, or virtually with the, yeah. Oh, nice, okay.
Let's see that hand.
Great, oh, this is awesome. Yay.
If I could,
Mm-hmm.
we appreciate so much if you could register on our website that you are holding an NBD event. And it's just better for us to be able to report that this year, 400 biomechanists participated. So the people who should register are the people actually doing the event. A couple of faculty, if so, a couple of grad students, the undergrads, not the high school students, but those giving the event. It would be great if you could register. It's easily seen on the website.
Yeah, and those numbers help us tell the story of how many people are being impacted. And that's what helps us raise funding for things like the grant opportunities that we're able to come and offer. And so, you know, that's why it's really important for us to collect that information.
I have a
Rachel?
short, sorry.
Sorry, Paul, I was just going to answer the question that was in the chat from Rachel. The question was, should we register even if it's not necessarily a formal event we will celebrate in my class? I would say yes. I think if you're celebrating National Biomechanics Day, if you're doing an event that's not formal, but is something that you are doing to celebrate, I think that counts.
Say National Biomechanics Day and show one of our posters, and you could download 100 posters from our website, and then it's an NBD. I have one little story that I want to tell that I will cry about. So I'm starting to cry already. So we have, you know, we've kind of been mentioning some big NBD events, like the Vanderbilt event was 4 days, and Nataliya was telling us about her event, and you know, it had a lot of working parts to it. And the event at University of Delaware is typically giant. Anna knows about that. I don't know, 8 different labs, hundreds of students circulating through. So they're all great. It's all fantastic. But an event that I always keep in mind was run by Randy Rowe Lazzarini in Willamette University. And one day she invited 8 students from the Willamette School of the Deaf to her lab, and they were there for an hour, and she showed them biomechanics in a simple manner. And I always think these Delaware NBD events are so fantastic, and not any more fantastic than Randy Rowe's event with 8 students from the School of the Deaf. So my point is, all NBDs are good, large or small. Now I will cry.
That is a beautiful message to end on as we come up on the hour. So thank you so, so much to the National Biomechanics Day team, the Biomechanics Initiative team, and thank you all so much for attending. I hope you have a great event and month celebrating. I'm sure you can reach out to anyone here for questions if you have any as they come up. So thank you so much for your time today, and we'll see you in March.
Definitely. Thank you all for having us.
Okay. Yes, bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.